Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is mix. Let's take a look at some of the meanings or definitions for this verb. The first way we tend to use this verb is to mean to combine different substances in order to form a new substance. A second way that this verb is used is to mean to prepare by combining various ingredients. So when you hear the word mix, you might think about cooking, and that connects to the second definition very closely. But we can mix other things. It doesn't just have to be in the kitchen. A third way to use this verb, mix, is to mean to combine two or more musical sounds or songs. Mix is a regular verb. To make the progressive form, all we need to do is add ing. And I've been asked by some of my former students, well, why aren't we doubling that last consonant? Because this verb goes consonant, vowel, consonant. And the reason is that here the letter X is making a K and an S sound together. So even though we're spelling just one consonant, we get two consonant sounds. So again, progressive form, we pronounce mixing. To make the past tense and participle forms, all we need to do is add ed. And I told you this verb is going to end with an S sound, so the ed is going to make a T sound. Mixed, mixed. Let's take a look at some phrasal verbs with the verb mix. The first that you might hear is to mix someone up. And all that really means is to confuse. Here's an example sentence. The twins look so much alike. I always mix them up. So again, I'm confusing one person for the other. Another phrasal verb you might hear is mix up, but this doesn't include a person. So with this, I'm meaning that someone has caused disorder, or they've put one thing with something else and they weren't meant to be combined. Here's an example sentence. I mixed up the papers when I dropped them. So this idea, they got out of order. That connects back to disorder. The final phrasal verb we'll look at today is mix with, and it means to associate with others socially. Here's an example of that. He mixed with people from multiple households. So just interacted socially. Today, we're going to continue practicing using the verb mix, and we'll practice making imperatives or commands. We'll look at the past progressive, and then we'll do some sentences in the simple present. You might remember imperatives are commands, and they're unique because in these sentences there's no stated subject. The subject is implied, and the subject is always you, and that can be singular or plural. So we might see this verb mix used in an imperative way in recipes. It's a really common way. So here's an example of that. Mix the dry ingredients together. So what this is suggesting is you want to combine all the ingredients that are not liquid. So you might hear the liquid ingredients called wet. If I want to make a negative imperative, I'm going to start with don't and then use the base verb. Here's an example sentence. Don't mix up the papers on my desk. There isn't a way to ask a question that's a command, so we're not going to do that. Instead, we'll move to the past progressive. To make this verb tense, we use a past tense form of be, that's was or were, depending on the subject, and then we use the ing form of the verb. Many times you'll hear the past progressive used in combination with the simple past, so two actions occurring in the same sentence. The past progressive is telling you something that was ongoing, and then we might have a simple past action that sort of interrupts it. Here is an example sentence. I was mixing the cookie dough while the oven heated up. If I want to make a negative sentence in the past progressive, I'm going to insert not after was or were. You might hear native speakers use the contractions weren't or wasn't. Here's an example sentence. We weren't mixing with other people during quarantine. If I want to ask a yes or no question in the past progressive, I'm going to start with that past tense form of be, then I'll have my subject, and then the ing form of the verb. Here's an example. Were they mixing the concrete? So again, this would tie back to that first more general definition of mix, of combining different substances. So to make concrete, we have this powder. You usually need water to kind of make the liquid that's going to eventually turn into a solid. Lastly, let's take a look at simple present. We use this verb tense to talk about our habits and routines. We also use it with facts. And the thing that is maybe a little different in the affirmative is that we need to change the form of the verb when the subject is he, she, or it. And our subject in my example sentence is an it. So let's take a look at it. That television show mixes humorous and inspirational stories. This idea of combining. If I had been talking about multiple TV shows, right, so 2 or more, right, I would just say mix. Let's look at making a negative sentence in simple present. To do this, we're going to use does not and our base verb, or do not and the base verb. Here's an example of simple present negative. Hand sanitizer and fireworks don't mix. And this sentence would be classified, I think, as a fact, right? So I saw this example in some different news articles from a few weeks ago, warning people not to use hand sanitizer and then touch fireworks because it could result in injuries and explosions. If I want to make a yes or no question in the simple present, I'm going to start with do or does, then I'll have my subject, and then the base verb. Here's an example of that. Does she mix her own albums? So this sentence is connecting back to that third definition of combining musical sounds or songs, and we're asking if that person does it for her own music or a collection of songs. Let's take a look now at some words that are related to our verb mix. And the first word we'll look at is the noun form, same spelling, same pronunciation. Just like our verb, it can have a couple different meanings. So one meaning for the noun mix is a prepared mixture of ingredients for making a particular type of food. So if you think about going to the grocery store, you might picture in your mind different mixes. So where you're going to have to combine fewer ingredients when you're at home. So there are pancake mixes and cookie mixes. And my example sentence here references a different type. Did you buy a chocolate cake mix? A second way we can use this noun mix is to mean 2 or more different qualities, things, or people that are combined together. Here's an example of that. The class has a mix of students from different states and backgrounds. Another noun related to our verb is mixer, and that's a machine or device that is used for that purpose of combining or mixing things. I've included a picture at the bottom of your screen in case you're not certain of what this might look like. And I have an example sentence as well. Take the dough out of the mixer. Another phrasal noun that's kind of connected to one of our phrasal verbs from earlier, mix up. You might remember there was confuse was the meaning there. Mix up with a hyphen is a noun, and it means a misunderstanding or confusion of one thing with another. Here's an example sentence. There was a mix-up over our appointment time. So some kind of confusion. I thought it started at this time, but the person I was meeting thought it was at a different time. The last word I'll leave you with today is overmix, and it's a verb. You can probably tell from the prefix over what it's suggesting, and the meaning here is to mix too much. Here's an example sentence. Don't overmix the batter. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.